back to Buckeye Country Creation. Monday afternoon, I'm home from work, and my husband just cut open the watermelon that he got this weekend. And there's only two of us in this house, so I have all this watermelon left over. And we won't eat it, so, what can I make with watermelon? Let's make some watermelon jelly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my watermelon cut up, and then I'm going to take a potato masher and I'm going to mash it up, and then I'm going to strain the seeds out. So I get 4 cups of watermelon juice. So let's get that started. Okay, so I have my watermelon all cut up and in this bowl. And I'm just taking just a regular old potato masher, and I'm going to mash my watermelon. When you start mashing watermelon, you're going to get a lot of juice, because jelly is made with juice, and that's what I make. I don't make watermelon preserves unless I have a seedless watermelon. And I have what I'm hoping is a seedless one over here that we haven't cut open yet. And if we do that, then I will make watermelon preserves. And so I'm to the point now where it's pretty mashed up. But now I'm going to go in and I'm going to get my immersion blender, and I'm going to blend this up, because I'm to a point to where now this is not making any difference now. So I'm going to grab my immersion blender and I'll be right back. Okay, well, my battery was dead on my immersion blender, but what I have done is I have taken cheesecloth, put my pulp in the cheesecloth, and squeezed my juice out. Now I have a couple of seeds that snuck out, which I will get out of my juice. And then I'm just going to take and empty the pulp over into this bowl over here. So if you don't have an immersion blender, but you have some cheesecloth, you can do this. You can just use your cheesecloth, put your pulp in there. Just don't want to do too much at once. So I'm going to get in here, and my hands are clean, but I'm fishing out the seeds. And I'm going to put the seeds in this bowl. Didn't have too many, maybe 1 or 2. So I'm going to spread out my cheesecloth again. And I'm going to get it ready to put some more pulp into. And you just double it. Make you like a little pocket. Be careful not to sling watermelon juice everywhere. Take you some pulp. And I've got a slotted strainer, so I'm going to go ahead and strain off some of my juice. But then you just put the pulp into the cheesecloth, like so. Wrap your cheesecloth up around it. And just squeeze that juice out. So you think you can't squeeze anymore. Watermelon has a lot of water in it, hence why they call it watermelon. So I've got to have 4 cups of watermelon juice. So we're going to see where we are as far as juice. I've got my cup here. We're going to pour this over here and see where we are. See how much more we need. Ooh, that's quite a bit right there. We are at 3.5 cups, so I don't need a whole lot more. So I'm going to empty my cheesecloth again. And I saw 1 seed floating in there, so I'm going to have to get it out. Ready to go again. Your kids can help you do this. They would love to do this. I think I need quite that much. I'm going to go ahead and get these seeds out because I see 2 or 3 seeds that have already fallen into the bowl. So I'm going to get them out. Them over into the trash bowl. Okay, so then I'm going to wrap my cheesecloth up and squeeze my juice out. And this should just about fill us at that 4 mark. See you trying to sneak back in there? One seed down in there. We'll get that one out. One seed. Okay. So now let's see where we are. We want 4 cups is what our recipe calls for. And we are right at 4 cups. All right. So we're going to put this aside, and I've got way more watermelon than I need, so I'm probably going to end up doing 2 batches. So I'm going to wash my hands right quick, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, so we're going to measure out 4 cups of sugar. And always make sure your cup is setting level. And these are 1/3 cups. So 3 of these should equal a cup, right? I'm tapping it. So there's 1 cup. And we'll set it down and tap it. There's 2 cups. Three cups. If your sugar's got lumps in it, make sure you smash those lumps up because you don't want any lumps of sugar. Okay. So there's 4 cups of sugar. We're going to need 4 cups of sugar, and we're going to need 4 cups of watermelon juice. So I'm going to set my sugar aside. And you're also going to need 7 tablespoons of lemon juice. And then you'll also need pectin. Let me grab my pectin right quick. Okay, so I need 3.5 ounces of pectin. I've got my pectin here that I bought from Hoosier Farms. The recipe calls for 3.5 ounces. I tend to use a little bit more. Let me grab a spoon. And as you can see, I've got my canner going back here. And my cup that I measured my sugar on has ounces in it. So I'm going to measure it. I'm probably just going to go ahead and do 4 ounces instead of 3.5 because I want to make sure my jelly firms up really well. Okay, so let's see what that's for. So there's my 4 ounces of my pectin. And then also I'm going to need lemon juice. And like I said, I use real lemon. So I'm going to measure out my 7 tablespoons of lemon juice. Because once I start my jelly maker, I don't want to have to measure all this out. So let's get my measuring spoons. Got to find my measuring spoons. I'll be right back. Well, that didn't take long. I found them really quickly. So let's get our 7 tablespoons of lemon juice measured out into this bowl. My pectin aside. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Your lemon juice is very important because when you water bath stuff, it has to be acidic. And so the watermelon on its own is not acidic. That's why you have to have the 7 tablespoons of lemon juice. Okay? So now I've got my sugar, I've got my pectin, and I've got my lemon juice. So now I'm going to grab my watermelon. Okay, so now I have my Fresh Tech ball jelly and jam maker. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pectin and I'm going to sprinkle the pectin all along the bottom of my pan, like so. Okay. Put my stirrer in there. Okay. So then the next I'm going to take and I'm going to add my 4 cups of watermelon juice. I'm going to watch for seeds. My kids love watermelon jelly. So does my maintenance man at work. Okay, so I've got 4 seeds in the bottom of my cup, so I'm trying to pour this out without actually getting them in there. All right, there we go. So now we're good. I'm going to dump that in there, get those seeds out of there. Okay, so now I'm going to add my 7 tablespoons of lemon juice into that. And I'm going to set my thing to jelly. And it automatically does it and hit enter. And it's going to start stirring it. And at the 4-minute mark, it will beep at me to put my sugar in. Okay, so we're going to let that cook for 4 minutes. I'd let you see it stirring. And it's okay for the pectin to clump up a little bit. That's okay. We're going to let that cook for 4 minutes. And it'll beep at me. And then I'll be back to put the sugar in. Okay, so my pan has beeped at me. So now it's time for me to take the lid off and add my sugar. Man, it smells good already. If you like watermelon Jolly Ranchers and you like jelly, you will love some watermelon jelly. It gives you something to do with all that extra watermelon. So now we're going to put the lid on it, let it finish cooking, about 21 minutes, and then we'll be ready to can up these jars of watermelon jelly. And this is a kind of a trust the process thing because you want to lift that lid and look at that, but you got to leave it on. Let the jam maker do its thing or the jelly maker do its thing. And I've got my jars back here already in the hot water sanitized. I've got my lids and I've got my rings that are already clean and sanitized. All my tools and my hands are clean. So we're just going to let this thing, we've got about 13 more minutes to go. Then we'll be ready to ladle up this jelly into these jars, get the lids on, get the rings on, and let them set for 24 hours. Now I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter to this, which will keep the jam from making up so much foam. Maybe a half a teaspoon of pat like that, and I'm just going to drop it in there. That'll keep there from being too much foam in the recipe. You don't that way, and if there is any, then you just ladle it off because you don't want foam in your jars. Okay, so my machine is done. So I'm going to hit cancel and I'm going to unplug it. And I'm going to finish taking my jars out of the hot water. And if you don't have one of these jar lifters, it's so much better than this thing. I can't operate that with one hand. That's why I have this thing. So much easier to use. Jars out. And I always have extra jars just in case. Because I never know, each batch is different. You never know how much you're going to get. Okay, so we are ready to ladle up our jam. So we've got that going. We're going to take our lid off. We're going to give it a little stir. Stir up all that sugar and pectin that's in there. And I'm going to do, yeah, see, it's already thickening up. So that's how I know it's done. It's ready to be ladled into the jars. So we're going to take the lid off. I'm going to place it behind me because it's hot. We're going to ladle up this good jelly into these jars. Good and stirred up. And I do have some foam, so I'm going to skim my foam off the top first. I'm going to skim that off. I don't want any foam in my jars. I should have put my butter in from the get-go, and I didn't. Always remember to put your butter in before when you start, when you put the sugar in. Just about got it all skimmed off. This is the first time I've used my ball canner to make my watermelon jelly. So fill up our jars. It's so pretty. Watermelon jelly is so pretty. Talk about making a pretty Christmas present to give to your neighbors, especially because a lot of people have never had watermelon jelly. My best friend in Bologna, she told me if I made watermelon jelly this year, I better make sure she gets some. So I will. Sorry, guys, my apron's a little big. I have to take it up. I'm glad I did the extra jars because I'm going to have probably enough to do the extra jars too. But it's so pretty. Now we're going to go for the little quarter pint jars. Careful if you're scooting jars because those jars are hot once you put that jelly in there. I mean, they're hot anyway. We got that done, so now I need to grab a couple more jars out of the water. I may or may not have enough for a full jar. We'll just have to see. Hopefully I won't stop this. Okay. I'm going to remove my stirrer. And of course it's going to drip. There we go. And I'll go and I will wipe the rims of the jars with a paper towel dipped in hot water to make sure that I get a good seal on my jars. I think I'm going to have enough just for this jar to fill this jar up, which is good. That will be the jar I send to my best friend. He loves watermelon jelly. Ooh, I'm a dripping. Okay. I'm going to top off some of these. I don't think that one's got quite enough in there. Alrighty. Top this one off, I think, with a little bit more. Okay. So now I'm going to get a wet paper towel. Go over here and get my paper towels. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get it in a cup. I'm going to get it out of my a pot there, and I'm going to wipe the rims. That's hot. Of these so that I can make sure I get a good seal. Because if there's anything on the rims of your jars, you will not get a good seal. You want to get a good seal to preserve it. Because these can stay in your cabinet for up to 18 months if they're sealed. And their seals have not broken. You need to check them every now and then to make sure their seals don't pop up though. I'm going to go around once more. Like I said, I want them to get a good seal. Okay. coming off clean, so then I know I'm good. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to get my lids. I'm going to put them on my jars. Okay. So now I'm going to get my glove because I know how hot these jars are. And I'm going to put my rims on just fingertip tight. Fingertip tight. Fingertip tight. Look how pretty that is already. Fingertip tight. Fingertip tight. I can definitely tell this apron is too big for me. Fingertip tight. Fingertip tight. Okay, so now we're going to move over and we're going to put these into the water bath canner and bring it back up to a rolling boil. And then once it boils, reaches the rolling boil stage, we're going to process them for 10 minutes. Okay, so now we have reached the stage where we're going to put our jars into our water bath canner and let them process. So I'm going to take this extra jar that I have and take it out, set it aside. I've lost my other handle. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to set these jars, and they're kind of hot. I'm just going to set them in there with my, and I try to kind of balance them as much as I can to keep them balanced. And you don't have to, but I just find that works better. And you want to make sure your water is an inch, at least an inch over the top of your jars. I think I can get these in there like this. All right. So we're good. So we're going to drop these into the canner. Well, not drop, but we're going to lower them into the canner, into the hot water. Now we're going to place the lid on. We're going to turn the heat up and bring them up to a rolling boil. And then once that rolling boil hits, I will set my timer for 10 minutes. So we'll come back in a few minutes and check and see if it's at a rolling boil. Okay, time to check it and see if it's at a rolling boil. And it is. So we're going to set our timer for 10 minutes. And let that start and let that process, and then we'll come back and we'll take them out, set them on the side, and not touch them until tomorrow. All right, well, we are almost at the time of the 10 minutes to take these out. So I've got my towel here that I'm going to set my jars on and let them sit for 24 hours and not touch them And then tomorrow I will check them, make sure all the seals are pulled down, and then I will take the rings off, label them, put them in the pantry. So, okay, here we go. Let's turn the timer off. Make sure when you take your lid off that you do it away from your face because it's going to be hot, like so. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and turn this heat down. And I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to pull my jars up out of the water. It's safer that way. And then I'm going to go in and take my jars out. Oh, of course. One of them wants to be difficult. So I'm going to set it over there. And they're all ready. I can already hear them pinging. Tink! And that's what you want. You want them to pull them seals down. Because that's what seals your jelly. Oh! Did you hear it? Before I even got it completely out of the water. So now, like I said, I'm going to let them sit for 24 hours. Then I will check the seals and I will pull the rings off and mark them. Look how pretty that is. Isn't that pretty? Watermelon jelly is such a pretty jelly. So I'm going to do a second batch, and I'm just going to be using these jars. So I'll probably get maybe 4 jars out of the second batch. So I'll be back as soon as that second batch is done. So here is my bundle of watermelon jelly. So I got 4 pints, 4 half pints, and 2 small, I'm going to say quarter pints, because they're like half of a half pint, so that's a fourth of a pint. But I got all of that out of 1 watermelon. And that's a large watermelon. So there is the jelly. So go get you some watermelons and make you some watermelon jelly.